The first half of this year was dominated by a discussion surrounding tariffs, really driven by the United States President Donald Trump. Alongside that discussion was Canada. Trinidad and Tobago has recently had its new High Commissioner from Canada, Michael Ryan Callan. But what opportunities, if any, are there for Canada and Trinidad and Tobago given the geopolitical environment? And then came the discussion surrounding education. Can Trinbagonians now look towards Canada when it comes to foreign education? My guest this week is the new High Commissioner from Canada to Trinidad and Tobago, Michael Callan. High Commissioner Michael Callan, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Ryan. Yeah.
You've been in Trinidad and Tobago for the last 4 months. What has your experience been like for these first few months?
Yeah, you're right. It has been only a few months, but it's been terrific. It's been wonderful so far. I couldn't have asked for a warmer welcome, and family's happy, the kids are happy, and really excited about the years ahead.
You take over the High Commissionership at a pivotal, interesting, and really critical point in what is happening geopolitically and its impact on us here in the Caribbean. How would you describe Trinidad and Tobago and Canada's relationship in the way that you found it?
Yeah, that's a good question with a relatively straightforward answer, and that is the quality of the relationship is superb. We have an excellent foundation, and you're right, there are all kinds of geopolitical turbulence at the moment, but with the strength of the connections that we have across many different sectors, I think we're really well positioned to navigate the turbulence ahead.
Trinidad and Tobago and Canada enjoy many different relationships, trade, diasporic relationships, etc. What are your top priorities being here in Trinidad and Tobago?
Sure. Well, it's another good question, and there's so much that we could pursue together. So it does take some work to focus in on those elements and those priorities that resonate most with our citizens. And really, after getting together with our colleagues and my other ambassadorial High Commissioner colleagues from the region, we've really settled on two anchor points for our engagement over the coming period. One, there's security concerns, all right? And I think one thing we often say is that Trinidad and Tobago's security is directly related to Canadian security. And so we treat it seriously for everything that happens within the country's borders and beyond, on the seas and what happens in between the islands in the region. And so we do take it seriously, and we have a good, strong foundation of partnerships in multiple security sectors, and we're looking to build those even deeper.
What's your second point?
The other anchor point is commercially based, and the turbulence we referred to earlier is dramatic. Our new Prime Minister has referred to the changes affecting the global trade regime right now being more dramatic than we've seen since the fall of the Berlin Wall. And so it's incumbent on us to adjust and adapt and flex to those. And part of that flexibility means diversifying our trade relationships and really concentrating and taking seriously those trusted relationships, such as the one that Canada, Trinidad and Tobago share together.
You speak an important, an interesting word there, diversification. What role, if any, does Trinidad and Tobago play in that diversification of commercialization for the country of Canada?
It plays an important role, a key role, because it's not just diversifying into new sectors, but it's taking our trade relationships outside of our dominant ones even more seriously. And again, there's a good, strong foundation to build upon. Because if you just look at commercially, basically Canadian businesses are everywhere. We're in financial services, and certainly in oil and gas, and in food products and security products. I think Trinbagonian passports and coins are made by a Canadian company. We really have deep and profound links right across the economy. And so there's a good foundation to build off of.
National security continues to be one of the most important topics Trinidad and Tobago is facing at this moment, particularly with a high crime rate.
Sure.
How can Canada assist Trinidad and Tobago in lowering its homicide rate?
Well, I mean, ultimately, we have a terrific amount of respect for Trinidad and Tobago's leadership. And so you know what's best for your country. But but where we can help is through partnerships, and we have a number of them. And whether it's with the TTPS, whether it's with the military, with the Coast Guard, with Customs, we have profound relationships already in existence, and there's much more room to grow there.
What are the biggest challenges facing the relationship between both countries today?
Well, it could be the unknown, because we just don't really know what's ahead in terms of the broader geopolitical context. And technologies are driving ahead faster than some can keep up with, and we see artificial intelligence taking us in new directions. And so in those moments of turbulence, I think it's doubly important, again, to get back to basics and get back to those relationships that we can rely on, that we can count on. And it's so satisfying to know that we have just such a relationship here.
Canada has become somewhat famous, if not popular, as a destination for Trinidad and Tobago citizens to start a new life in. And it's sometimes, you and I were talking before the cameras started rolling, sometimes it's not to escape the country. Sometimes it's merely just to start a new life, just to taste new experiences, to be in a new environment. Whatever reason it is, Trinbagonians have fallen in love with Canada as a destination. How are Trinbagonians, and the thought of people from the Caribbean, in an era really where we see nationalism so rampant, how are locals being received in Ottawa?
Well, it's a good question, and you said that Trinbagonians have fallen in love with Canada, and I've got to say the feeling's mutual. It's the Trinbagonian diaspora in Canada is large. It's the second biggest in the world. But more than that, it's not just big, but it's appreciated. It's deeply appreciated because the community is making contributions into numerous sectors of Canadian society, and in fact into Canadian identity. And whether it's the arts, whether it's sports, whether it's academia and engineering and science, and Trinidad and Tobago have really made a mark in our country, and they're welcome today and will continue to be welcome in the future.
Do you have any latest statistics you can share with us as to how many Trinbagonians may be residing in Canada?
It's difficult to land on a precise number because the origin and across multiple generations can get a little gray, and it's all voluntary information that people share. But certainly in excess of 100,000 Canadians trace their lineage to Trinidad and Tobago, and so it's large geographically. It's quite concentrated, so it has a strong voice as well. And you can see the level of appreciation and celebration for the community through events like Caravana or the Toronto Caribbean Carnival Festival, which attracts over 1 million people a year. It's the largest carnival celebration in North America. Trinidad and Tobago has its own day in early September, which over recent years has attracted over 30,000 people. And so that scale and that volume of celebration testifies to the quality and the affections shared between the relationships between our people.
Coming up after the break, given the shifting dynamics of college education in the United States, is Canada an option for Trinidad and Tobago students? We talk about the interest Trinbagonians may have in Canada, High Commissioner. That interest is going to become even more important. At the end of May, US President Donald Trump announced an operationalized pause on student visas globally.
Sure.
Trinidad and Tobago citizens are very much in tune with US colleges. They love US colleges. They depend on US colleges for scholarships. It was a hard hit to take. It was front page news in this country. Do you see Canada being able to fill that gap? Not only fill that gap, but do you see an opportunity for Trinidad and Tobago and Canada here to plug that hole?
Sure. Well, first let me say off the bat that I sympathize. I empathize with these kind of sudden changes. They can have dramatic and pronounced impacts at a very personal level. As Canadians, we've felt that same shock. You know, it's no secret that we've gone through some trauma recently. But there's been some silver linings. We've looked after, and we're looking after our own house even more, and it's a bit of a reminder and a wake-up call to double down in our relationships and our investments with other trusted partners. So on education specifically, we have really been blessed by a strong interest in by Trimbagonians in Canadian colleges and universities. I know we've welcomed over 4,000 students over the last 10 years, and they continue to be welcome. And so, far from me to suggest that we could fill gaps left by American decisions, but I do know that Trimbagonians will continue to be welcome, and if I can say so myself, the quality of Canadian tertiary institutions and colleges they're really world class, and for the value versus the quality received, I for one think it would be a terrific choice to look into Canada.
Do you see that becoming your third anchor point? You've spoken about security, you've talked about commercialization. Do you see early on in your high commissionership that education may be, on the back of what we saw geopolitically, may end up becoming a very strong anchor point in your time here?
Well, education is an anchor point, and it's an important element, and will continue to be an important element. And so I mentioned commercial interests and our security interests that we share together, but that's not to say that there aren't a wide range of other interests. That's it. Just to be able to focus in together. So there's education, there's cultural exchanges, there's arts exchanges. I think we have 25 different agreements between Canadian universities and UE here at the moment. So there's a wide spectrum of other issues to pursue that will complement our focus on commercial and security interests.
Another topic that you have a vested interest in and you have concerns about is climate change. Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the Caribbean are on the front lines of this climate disaster. What do you think is necessary for both countries to work towards mitigating and perhaps even adapting to the changes in the climate?
It's a good question without easy answers, but it's one I think both of our governments are really seized of at the moment. And, Canada is a large oil and gas producer, and we were the fourth largest oil producer in the world, the fifth largest natural gas producer. So we understand what some of the other sides of those opportunities are, and some of the environmental challenges that are present. And again, there's no secret. It's doubling down in technology. It's looking for alternative energies. It's looking at clean energies, under no illusions that new energy sources will replace traditional sources over the next year or two. But it does make sense to start investing, seeking, and exploring where those opportunities lie. And I heard recently somebody referring to future-proofing our energy industries, and I think it's that spirit that we're doubling down on our own investments in technology and alternatives.
You talk about Canada having massive oil and gas reserves. A large chunk of those oil and gas reserves actually come from Alberta.
Sure.
And in Alberta, you have your own regional political challenges there, with many far-right citizens calling for a referendum. But it doesn't change the fact that the oil and gas reserves right now plays a pivotal role in the geopolitics, and even some of the citizens there have touted the idea of becoming America's 51st state should the referendum go their way. But do you see opportunities? You talk about the energy security, you talk about energy. Are there opportunities there for Trinidad and Tobago, Canada, within the energy realm for a place like Alberta?
Yeah, well, it's a good point, and you mentioned there are discussions and ongoing discussions within Canada. We've talked about our sovereignty recently, but really, like any family, there's always points of friction that will come up. But like most families too, it's the affections and the connections together that reaffirm that we have a long, steady path ahead. But yes, Alberta is really blessed with energy resources, and that have enabled Canada as a country to be an energy superpower. And you talked about the possibility for cooperation. I've got to say that cooperation, I'm happy to say, already exists. So you may have seen in the media recently, Touchstone Exploration, for example, a company we're quite proud of, has recently expanded their licenses and expanded their blocks to add to their portfolio. So Touchstone is an Alberta-based Canadian company, which now represents the largest producer of oil and gas onshore in Trinidad and Tobago. And there's other examples. I know Red Deer Polytechnic as well has a long-term training and an experience sharing relationship with Trinidad and Tobago. That's Alberta-based. And so those are just a couple of examples, but I could probably cite similarly impressive examples from different provinces and territories right across our country.
What specifically are your hopes? I know that you mentioned Touchstone and Red Deer, but what do you hope what hopes are there for Trinidad and Tobago with mature gas fields in this country? Can we look to a country like Canada, specifically maybe even Alberta, to assist in our own struggles to find oil and gas? We talk about how mature our own gas fields are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and some of those relationships exist, and it's part of our job to look at how we can create additional ones as well. Because as we say, we have a shared challenge in front of us, and part of it can be finding new sources of energy, new traditional sources of energy. Part of it can be seeing what more we can make from traditional sources of energy, and another part will be what alternative energies can we bring into fruition.
I just want to, before we move on with the conversation, I do want to touch on one final point as it pertains to energy and climate change. Globally, not just in Canada, and Prime Minister Carney, we have seen sort of walk back on some regulations as it pertains to climate change, instituted under former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. But this is not just a Canada thing. This is a globally. Just this morning I was reading that from Reuters news agency that BP is also walking back fully on its renewable energy commitments that it wanted to make by 2030. Exxon never got there. But are you concerned, and do you have concerns about not just Canada, but also globally, that many of these oil giants are walking back on promises made 5 years ago, especially now that they seem to have an ally in the US President Donald Trump?
I'm concerned. As an individual, as a citizen, I'm concerned about environmental repercussions in our country. As a diplomat, about environmental repercussions here, and as an individual, about repercussions around the world. To be sure, again, but I don't think that there's any silver bullet solutions. One way where we're going to make progress together is going to be to keep the channels of conversation and communication open. To work with industry, to work with civil society, to work with regulating powers within the public sector, to see what possibilities we can bring together. Because at the root of it, I am convinced that we do share a common objective. There might be shorter-term interests that take us in different directions to get there, but I know the spirit is there to find solutions together.
Up next, we talk trade with the High Commissioner of Canada. You talk about the investments that Canadian companies have in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's talk a little bit about vice versa. Have you seen the level of interest, but also is the process smooth enough and accessible enough for local businesses to enter Canadian market?
Yeah, there definitely is an interest, and there's a presence. There's a number of Trimbagonian companies that sell merchandise and some services into Canada. I think there's room to grow it, and I think the time is now to do it. And again, part of that is the reflection and the understanding of the pressures and the need to diversify, not just the economy, but your trading partners and relationships. One thing I'm really happy to inherit is an established agreement that Canada has right throughout the Caribbean called CaribCan, and that basically allows the overwhelming majority of exports from Trinidad and Tobago, for example, to be exported into Canada 100% tariff-free. And so it's not reciprocal. So the opposite isn't necessarily true. So it's meant as a bit of an outreach, a hand to encourage those initial investments. And I know there's lots of potential to do more.
What would be your method as High Commissioner to Trinidad and Tobago to encourage more businesses, to educate more businesses that tariff doesn't exist and it's actually much easier to enter the Canadian market than some might think?
Sure. No, it's a good question. And part of it is just through relationships and partnerships. We have a nice constructive relationship with the Consul General, the Trinidadian Consul General is based in Toronto, and with your High Commission in Ottawa, and working with them and with the new government here, just to talk about it, just to make sure it's well known, to engage with the Chamber, because it's not a new agreement, it's one that's been in place for some time. But one thing we know is that none of us can afford to be complacent, and we have to return to some of those tools that work. And CaribCan is one just such tool.
Over 100,000 people in Canada can trace their lineage back to Trinidad and Tobago, High Commissioner. At some point, do you see yourself having conversations with the government about air travel?
About air travel? We have in the past, and I'm sure we will in the future, and all in a positive sense. We were very happy recently to be at the airport to welcome the resumption of Air Canada flights, direct flights from Port of Spain into Toronto. And so that offers a new terrific possibility, not just to explore Canada, but to carry on with single tickets into Europe and to other locations as well.
I do want to stick in, how important was that milestone, getting back flights between Toronto and Trinidad? And what are some of the possibilities, opportunities, not just tourism, more than tourism. Now you have a real opportunity of commercialization and trade that didn't exist for quite a long time.
It certainly helps. Yeah, it certainly helps. That direct connection is a reflection of the market as well. So it's not done by hazard. It's a reflection of the deep and intense interest that there is for exchange and visiting and partnering together. And I've got to say too, no one thing is going to make it or break it, but I'm happy that flight's resumed, because it's a reflection of just how competitive our global markets are. And so if that edge exists to make it that much easier to visit, whether it's visiting a graduating daughter, or visiting an auntie who's ill, or just starting to explore a new emerging business idea, the path to do that is just that much easier now. And so the connections have been strong in the past, and I know with this direct flight, they'll grow stronger still.
You and I spoke about for Canada. Canada has become the symbol. For those watching this program right now might be saying, gosh, I've been thinking about doing the application process, beginning the application process to reside in Canada. What would you say to those people who are thinking about it, who are going through the application process, a very rigorous application process, by the way? What would you say to those Trinbagonians?
Well, I would say to do the research, think about it hard. There are all kinds of wonderful opportunities to immigrate to Canada, but it's not easy, and it's not for everyone. We are a land of immigrants, and apart from our First Nations, Métis and Inuit, everybody who lives in Canada at one point or another got on a boat, got on a plane, and took that very difficult decision to transition. And in most families, there are stories of struggle, of challenge. Cultural struggle, economic struggle, linguistic struggle. But I know for any Trinbagonians considering it, the language and the fact that the language is one smaller barrier, and the fact that there's a ready-made community, not just of Trinbagonians, but of people from right across the Caribbean, I think it lowers the barriers and lowers the unknowns that much more. So the foods, the accents, just the cultural touches are there, ready to be folded into. But it's not a small decision, and so if anybody would like to carry on that conversation, I know many of us at the High Commission would be happy to have it.
What legacy, High Commissioner Callan, do you hope to leave in Trinidad and Tobago?
It's a good question. I mean, the relationship is far beyond the impact that any one individual is going to have. So on one hand, I mean, it's a real diplomatic blessing to be able to inherit so much momentum and so much potential, and so I hope to push all of those elements ahead slightly, and do my part in leaving things a little bit better than I found them. But I guess one thing I'm struck by, and it's a bit of a weakness of mine. I'm assailed by seeing opportunity everywhere. And that can be a challenge because there's so much potential in this relationship, and the only limitation are the hours in the day. And so one thing we've started to talk about, because I've been really touched and impressed by how many people have deep connections with Canada, that have studied, that have done business, that have visited, and want to keep that connection live. People have connections, but they also have ideas, and they want to contribute. And so we've taken some steps just to inaugurate a Canada Club for Trinidad and Tobago, and all with a view of harnessing those ideas and that energy. Because we're 50 people or so at the High Commission, but there's literally tens of thousands of people across the country that have a glimmer of an idea that if only we could connect in one way or another. They have ideas to present. And so we've taken some steps just to mobilize, just to organize, give a bit of a boost, help make those connections and match make between those ideas, and see which direction they can go. So I'm not sure what that might look like in a few years from now, but I'm excited to find out.
Does the geopolitical situation, everything that you see happening in Europe as it pertains to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, what's happening in the United States, does it worry you as an ambassador? As a High Commissioner.
It's troubling. It's troubling, but I don't know. Without being trite about it, that's what we signed up for, right? This is, in one sense, you could say that some of our work has never been more important, because these tensions and these frictions, they're all about broken relationships, and a diplomat is there to build relationships. And that's not an easy task. It's a complicated world, we fully recognize, but there's no time like now to draw on all of the skills, knowledge, and experiences we have to make what modest contributions we can.
High Commissioner Michael Callan, you chose us to do your first public interview here in Trinidad and Tobago. We do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Ryan, thanks for the time.